Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. I hope you're all doing well, staying safe and all that jazz. Tonight, I'm finally getting a little bit of time to myself to do my version of practicing, which is really just recording experimentation. I'm on a huge kick right now to kind of shake up my workflow, try out new mics, new mic combinations. I've already been doing it on some recording and mixing with my outboard gear, which we'll go over at some point too. Tonight's gonna be drums, but I'm gonna do this bass, guitar, we're gonna do it on the piano, some vocals, and just really go down the rabbit hole. Since I'm gonna be doing this, I'm gonna film as much of it as I can to share with you all. Maybe you'll find it useful or inspiring as well. Tonight, I'm gonna focus on drums, specifically in one area, which is this kit front mic. I love this part of the kit. There's so much you could do in this area right here. Probably 99% of my sessions have a kit front mic, usually about kick drum high, measured equidistant from the snare with the overheads. So those three mics, I can pull them up, I've got a sound right there. But one thing I like about this area is it can add some depth to the kick, it can add some space around the toms, and even to a certain extent the snare drum. But you can also get really creative depending on what mics you put here. So I'm going to swap this mic out. I'm going to leave the 4047 up because I know it. I know what it does here, so it gives me a good reference. And I'm going to swap this other mic out. Maybe I'll find some cool combos. Maybe I'll find something else that does something similar to the Audio-Technica. But really what I'm trying to do is not find the best mic. I'm just trying to learn what all these mics do so I can add texture. I can change the vibe. I can change the emotion of the kit. Maybe it's gonna be a combination of mics. Maybe I'll swap it out entirely. Maybe I want things to be darker and fuller. I'll go all ribbons. I don't know. Tonight, we're gonna find out what a bunch of this sounds like. I have a ton of mics over here. I'm gonna go through as many of them as I can. I'll probably just go pick some of the more unique ones, or the ones that I think are more unique for one reason or the other to share with you guys instead of doing all of them because it's a lot. It's gonna be a lot. Now my kit, I got a basic setup tonight. I got my good old Ludwig, classic maple with my Paiste Cymbals up here. The mic setup is an ATM 250 in the kick. I have the Roswell Mini K87s on the overheads, Heil PR30 on the toms, and over on the snares, my MicParts SDC 84. I'm familiar with all these mics. I know what they sound like. I know what this gear sounds like. It's going to allow me to swap this front mic out and just see how it alters my sound. I didn't want to run back and forth from the control room, so back there I have a MOTU, one of my MOTU 8 pre's, and a laptop to make this easy. No compression, no EQ. This is going to give me a completely clean session that I can use to further experiment with, plugins or hardware that I'm getting or something like that, which is important. So, without further ado, let's just go put the lab coats on. I'm going to go hit some drums and make some noise, and let's see what these different mics sound like. Let's do it. That's the 5 mics that I chose. Out of all the mics that I recorded, and I recorded a lot, I felt like those 5 at least brought something interesting to the table and were worth sharing with you guys. These mics are more like texture or color mics. So that means they may not be on all the time. Because sometimes you get, especially if you're compressing or doing something else, you can get a ton of cymbals right there and you may not like that, but during the grooves they may sound good. Or maybe you like how it blows the cymbals up and it adds something to the chorus. So these are mics that can get turned on and off during a mix or just left on entirely to create an entirely different sound. Because in that position, one mic does have the ability to completely change the texture of your kit depending on what you do to it. So let's start off just hearing them with the full kit. We'll start with the 4047. And I will turn it on after a couple bars. That's why I like the 4047. I love what it does to the kick drum, and I like how it adds a little bit of air around the rest of the kit also, without completely changing the sound of the kit, but also without sounding too roomy. It also does something nice with the ride cymbal, just adds a little bit of size to it, which I think can be cool. Could be too much too if you turn it up too much or compress it, but in this case, I actually think it worked quite well. All right, let's go to the Fathead. Ribbons, using that position all the time. I'm sure some of you have done it as well. The Fathead does an exceptional job there. I'll kick this on after a couple bars. One thing I like about ribbons is they deal with cymbals well. You notice when I turn that on, the ride cymbal didn't come forward too much, and neither did the crash cymbals get too much in the center of the image. But it added a lot to the kick drum, and even the snare. It brought some body out in the snare. Gotta love ribbon mics, man. Next one up. This is probably the one that you heard during the playthrough that you're like, why? What's up with that mic? And that's the S55. I've never used it in that position before, so I just wanted to try it. But when I heard it with the kit, I was like, ooh, that's actually really neat. And here's why. Well, I'll say why afterwards. We'll see if you agree with me. What I thought was cool with this microphone in context was it's a brightness EQ. You just turn that thing on and the whole kit kind of opens up. On its own, it's a little, there's not a lot of bottom end in it. It's a little crunchy sounding. Even there's some questionable frequencies, you know, up about 5K and up that you might want to dip out a little bit. Matter of fact, I am dipping just a little bit of around 6K. I didn't like what was happening with the ride cymbal and the hi-hat at that point. But in context, just that one microphone brings the entire kit. And especially the snare drum, it's almost like it brings out a little air around the snare, but it's, you know, 3 or 4 feet from it, which I thought was kind of cool. So I got to file that one away because that could be a nice trick if you've got a dark aesthetic going, but you just need something that's not reaching for an EQ that you could just kick on every once in a while just to cut through a mix. That S55 would do the trick. All right, SM57. I've used this mic in the front of the kit multiple times. Sometimes I've pointed it straight up. Sometimes I pointed it down. I've run it through compressors, distortion pedals, all that sort of stuff. I'll kick the 57 on after a couple bars. That's almost a more natural version of the S55. It doesn't have some of the annoying high-end frequencies as the S55 does. Also pretty smooth with cymbals. Maybe not ribbon mic smooth, but it's definitely smoother than the condensers. Would take a compressor well, distortion, bust out your pedals, everybody. All right, next. This is also another fairly new one. I had this in the mic locker from years ago. We did a lot of videos for Audio-Technica. And just for some reason, the first session this year, pulled it out and used it with Mike Nealon, stuck it in front of the kid. Let's see what's going to happen. And went, oh man, that's actually pretty neat. And that's the Audio-Technica AT8004, which is really more of a handheld broadcast mic. But it does something really neat in front of the kit. There's a lot more in your kind of mid-range, especially your where you might consider a little papery, like between 500 and 700, that area, that on its own you might hear it and kind of get that seashell effect a little bit when it turns on. But if you've got bass and guitars and all the things going around it, those areas in the drum set can actually make the drums feel thicker and more alive. And I like those areas quite a bit. Because it's Omni, it's also a bit more roomy, but not in a distant kind of way. And this could work really well if you're in a smaller room and maybe you don't have any room mics and you need to try to get some ambience around the kit or help your overheads out, or maybe you can't get your overheads to the volume you want to have that. An Omni mic like this would be great because you could just kind of sneak it in that mix and add a little bit of space around the front of the kit that's still in phase with the overheads. Now, here's one of my personal favorites. Since I bought these, I thought this was going to be gimmicky first, and I have fallen in love with this mic, and that's the Red 12 from 12-gauge microphones. On its own, it's a cool microphone. In context of the kit, boy, it can add some serious size. Kind of in the same fashion that 8004 just adds some nice space around the kit. The Red 12 also Omni, but the Red 12 has some serious girth to it. I mean, on its own like that, the snare's got a snap and body. The kick drum has got a punch to it. So when you add that in, a little goes a long way here. I really like that mic. Really like that mic in that position. Now I'm going to work backwards. There's a couple other things. Well, there's a lot of things you could do with this. I mean, you could process it. You might have some great plugins, some great outboard gear, just however creative you want to get, depending on what the music calls for. So I'm going to do a couple things that I do on a fairly regular basis. And sometimes that is, well, a lot of the times, sending out some hardware compressors. In this case, I'm going to send that Red 12. Let me mute. Let's see what channel am I coming out? Okay. I am sending that to my Dynamite. It's adding some gain, it's adding a lot of excitement, but in context,
let me back that up just a little bit. This is such a fun one that it's easy to overuse a little bit. You can hear the compressor kind of pumping. I'm a huge Valley People Dynamite fan. I have 2 of them, and I could easily use 2 more of them. Again, that front mic spot or that front kit spot, a great place to do that because it's still, this starts to sound more roomy because you hear the compressor pumping a little bit, and it's adding some depth in there. But the mic is still not far away, so the drums still stay punchy. The other thing, I love guitar pedals. I use my radial EXTC reamp to interface these pedals with the board when I'm mixing or when I'm tracking. And one of the new ones I've gotten recently is the ZVEX Mastotron Fuzz. This thing is so freaking cool. Now this is real texture. This is when you start, you can go to town on this and really go overboard and start adding some cool textures depending on what pedals or what distortion you use. You could use a guitar amp. You know, I've done it through the Marshall cabinets before, and it can be really cool. This is going to be the SM57 through the fuzz pedal. One thing I love about the Mastotron is it doesn't kill your low end. Matter of fact, you can get some insane kick drum sounds with that thing because the bottom is gigantic on it, which makes it awesome for bass guitar too. All right, so what does that sound like in context? Let's find out. I'll just kind of ease it in. What's cool here is not only does it add some balls and some size to it, but this is real texture because you hear the fuzz, you hear it break up on the kick, you hear it break up on the snare and the toms and even the cymbals. It's all a little bit on the crunchy side. And you know, with your tone control on these things, you could really make it darker. You really hear the extension of the kick drum, or you can make it brighter. You can make it more fuzzy. One mic, one guitar pedal, completely different drum sound. And that is, again, I know I've said it like 5 times already and I'm repeating myself, but that front kit is such a cool area to not only get a natural blend in the way that, say, I use the 4047 or the Fathead, but also to get some texture and color mics that you can either process while you're recording, or you can know that you might have that up and go, oh, I know that mic handles compression well or handles distortion well or whatever. I may use that later when I'm mixing. Sometimes I'll do both while I'm tracking. I'll just, off the board, I'll just send a send, like say that 57, I'd track it clean, use a send it over the Mastotron, and have 2 separate tracks of that so I can blend to taste later, or keep the things off until maybe the bridge, you just want things to explode. Or maybe you get in your mix and you just, man, I wish my entire drum set was crunchier. Great, I got that one microphone. Hit it with the guitar pedal. Have some fun. That's the color texture area. Gonna do more. Got a few more mics on the way. A few things I'm gonna build. Matter of fact, there's one that's all the way back there. This guy. Getting ready to have a little fun with this. And I'm not talking about making phone calls. So we're going to keep experimenting there. And I'd be curious to know what you guys are doing. If you got a mic that you like out in front of the kit, or a distortion that you like running through, or a favorite compressor or something like that, just add some character and color to the overall kit sound. Let everybody know. Thanks for joining. Hope everybody's doing it fantastic. And we'll see you in the next video. Happy recording.